Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm filming a dark brush wave mid-bald fade. So we're going to be leaving the C cup area, but still taking the blend up a little bit higher than a low fade. And again, the client has waves, so we're going to do what we can to show as much as possible. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking my wall Kunos, I'm going with the grain with the 1.5 guard lever all the way closed. Now this is just a little bit longer than your 1.5 blade is, and it allows me to still show more of his waves, as you can see here. And I tend to leave the crown till the end. That way you get an idea how all the hair is looking. And then in the crown area, the hair tends to be a little bit straighter. So it's going to be standing up a little bit more, which, as you know, that means it's going to get cut shorter than the rest of the hair around it. So you have to adjust for that. And sometimes you want to cut the area by the front line a little bit lower than you have the rest of the hair, just to give you the nice laid down look. Okay, so now I open my lever up all the way. I'm going to be adjusting as needed to get this crown to lay down and look the same as all the hair around it. When you're combing out your hair, in the beginning of the haircut is when you're spotting all the different directions and the patterns of the hair growth. That way you're never cutting against the grain or cross grain. You want all hairs, in this case, to be cut with the grain so that they're all even. I remove all the loose hair with my air tool. You have to be careful with these and don't use them if the area has a cut or a abrasion. So we start off our bald fade with my wall A-lines. These are my nice sensitive area as well as bulk removal trimmers. A small, compact, easy to use and get around with. And you see that's a mid fade. It's up a little bit higher on the C-cup area, but it's dropping down still. We want to keep that blend underneath the occipital bone in the back of the skull if possible. And really making sure that I got it all evenly bald over the ear and everything. Nobody wants hair on the bottom of their bald fade. And in the back of the neck area, you'll always notice hair growing in different directions. So you just approach it the right way, turn your clippers as needed. Now I brought it around the back. Again, I'm still about 1.5 inches below his occipital bone, so I got plenty of room to not take the blend up too far. Now I'm matching the other side to it, the best that I can, just off my eyes. Symmetry is one of the foundations of a good haircut, so you want to make sure that you're doing everything evenly on both sides. Again, I'm using my sensitive area and bulk remover trimmers. I don't use my sharpest liners because, first of all, I don't want to irritate, but also that's a very unforgiving line. If you put that line in, some people struggle just to get any trimmer line out in their blend. So to use your sharpest liners, I'd say would be just making it harder for no reason. So now I'm using my card that has measurings on it, and I'm just making sure that it's up as high on both sides using my ear as a reference point. And I noticed that I need to bring this side up so that it comes into the fade the same way on both sides of the head. Yep, spot on. All right, I dust all the hair out of the way. That way there's no interruption when I'm trying to get it as smooth as possible with my foil shavers, which I did not show. But I do have my magic clips with the lever all the way open now for the second area. See, it's about an inch wide of an area. Just making sure it's all evenly cut. Dropping it down in the back the same way I did with the bald. And I put on my one guard now. I have the lever all the way open, and I'm just getting a feel for the length that I'm looking for in this area of the perennial ridge and below. So I just removed some of the bulk. Now I turn them back and go against the grain for my next area. Always flicking out whenever you're setting in areas and when you're blending. This allows for a smoother transition into the higher level or the longer hair lengths. This is about 1.5 inch area. Not going up too high, but I'm going up enough to give this a gradual blend. You know, some people like the short blends where it's very quickly blended down the side of the head, where it's long the bald very quickly. I lean more towards the longer blends. I think sometimes it can look like a chili bowl when you do too short of a blend and you don't allow enough length in it. So we have some clipper over comb work just to kind of help transition into the top. Spot treating these dark areas. Now I close the lever halfway on my one guard. I'm just lightening up, softening up that line. You can see I'm just about blended into the top of the hair length. I'll come back with a bigger guard, but for the most part, we got to blend it into it with the one guard and a little clipper over comb work. So after we've softened the line, we come back now with the half guard. I start with the lever position about 3/4 of the way open, and I go about 3/4 of the way into the one guard area. Now dropping down in between the halfway point and the quarter-way point into this one guard area, I will now be putting my lever in the same position. Put it in between the halfway mark and the quarter mark on your lever position. Make your full pass throughout the area. And then I'll close the lever all the way, and I'm going just above that line to get it out the best that I can. Sometimes you have to come back in with the lever all the way open and no guard to complete that, but I'm going to try to get it all out with just the half guard lever closed. When I do a haircut, normally I'll go all the way around the head with each area, but just for this video purposes, I'm doing it like this. And now with my lever halfway open, I'm going to begin to try to transition the bald into the hair. So I'm going about in between halfway and 3/4 of the way into this area before closing it down to just above all the way closed. See if I could get the line out. I'm going just above the line. Now I close it all the way. I'm going to try and completely get that line out. And coming with the grain, give me a longer length than going against. And when you're doing your initial set-in of areas and the initial blend work on your hair, you're going to want to kind of run through it fast as you can without making mistakes. And then a lot of your work is going to be on your finish work when you're doing these type of Instagram quality haircuts. So now I have my half guard on, playing with the lever. Always brushing and combing the hair into the proper position. That way it's showing me actually how it's going to look when he's got it styled and all waved up. Just about have it blended into the top hair length. A little fine tuning. This is the third time that I've cut this client's hair. He's gotten a different haircut every time. And it's my first time doing a mid-bald fade on him, and it does turn out very nicely, I'd say. But you got to watch. Different hair types show blends differently. So you may have to adjust your lever positions or your settings, the length of your settings, or the area that you set it in. You may have to adjust the settings. Like maybe if your client's hair takes longer to blend, then you wouldn't bring the bald area up as high. You put it a little bit lower to compensate for that. Whenever I'm in the perennial ridge area, I got my guard on and I'm going with the grain to leave room for mistakes and so that I don't cut it down too short. Now I have my 1.5 guard on. And with some lever play, I'm going to completely connect the one guard area to the top of the hair without going above that perennial ridge. So I have my blending shears, which allow me to help soften that transition into the top of the head because it does not cut every single hair. It just lightens it up. It doesn't necessarily remove the weight or the bulk. It just lightens the area up for you. And I got my work cut out for me on the back of this client's hair. You can see all different types of lines in it from the wave pattern. I have to go in here and spot treat it so he doesn't have a chili bowl in the back of his head. You don't want to be the barber that just gives up on the back of the blend. Some barbers do it. You see people out in public. At some point, someone's going to tell them, and then they're never going to come back to you. And I always start with a lever position or a guard that is longer than what I need. And then I lower the cutting length as needed. This allows me for a safety net. Hair is a very unforgiving thing. You cut too far up, you got to bring the whole blend up to match it. So you can't put any hair back. Again, I'm just working with this wave pattern that's created lines all throughout my blend. It's helpful if your clients that have waves or want to have waves, if they do the washing style on their waves, it's where they brush it with shampoo and they lay it down and rinse it out with a do-rag on. That really helps you when you come in, you just comb it out and cut it to the length that they want it. But then when you go to lay it back down, it just lays down way smoother. This helps with blending and everything. Right, combing the hairs into position after a few swipes every time with my clipper. And you see in the back especially, I'll be turning my clippers all different directions to make sure I'm cutting all hairs the same way against the grain. And it's looking good. It's just about done. I'm not completely blending it because sometimes when you lay the hair down, it will create a whole nother weight line. It will change the color of the hair, the dark spots, and everything. So I do a basic blend. Like I said, I run through a basic settings and then a basic blend before I lay it down. Then I'll go ahead and leave a lot for finished work in the end. If you are a new barber trying to establish clientele, you're going to want to run through your cuts a lot faster in this and not offer so many things in your service. I'm going to be laying this client's hair down with a do-rag multiple times, using enhancements, razor, and all that hot towel. You can't offer that in the beginning. It's just not practical. It costs too much. Or if you do it, look at it as an investment, but you have to understand the profit's not coming back for a while. And it can be tough sometimes to make one side of the blend look the same as the other side because of the growth pattern. It might grow directly back on this right-hand side. It happens a lot in clients. I'll see the hair grows more directed towards the back while the other side just grows towards the front and downwards. But that's no big deal. You just got to approach it differently. And you see, I'm hitting right where that area is just a little bit dark above my blend. And turning the chair, looking at it from different lights, different angles, just helps with flows. It makes them pop out to you. Sometimes you got to look away for a brief moment, reset your eyes, and look back. Sometimes you got to look at it in the mirror for a second perspective, or even through your phone or your camera for a third perspective. This just ensures that your hair looks good in all lights. Early in my career, I'd follow a client out, taking a break or whatever after the haircut, and as soon as it hit the sunlight, I'm like, hey man, we got to go back inside. I got to fix that. It's because I wasn't constantly changing angles of viewing, and I wasn't always turning the client's head the way that I needed to and looking at it using all my references, mirror and camera. But over the years, I learned that that's what you got to do if you want it to look good in all lights and all situations. Your client's not in a barbershop lighting all the time. So it's important that it's blended very detailed so that it can actually look good in all lighting settings. I use the brush for the balder areas or the no guard areas, but When the hair gets a little bit longer than that, 1 guard and above, I use a comb to really grab control and softening the transition with a razor comb, trying to lighten it up a little bit. And the air tool again, removing all the loose hairs. Now I'm running over the client's head and hitting all the strays that have not laid down after I've brushed it. Taking my time. It helps to have a light background, so I'm in an all-white room. It makes the darker hairs stand out abruptly for me. Be careful, make sure you're riding the heel of that blade on the client's scalp. For safety reasons, you don't want to notch these waves. That's a good way to lose a client. A lot of hairs poking out in that crown area. And removing all these hairs, they're distraction from your waves to the eye. So your waves are going to look very detailed, and the clarity of them is just going to be way higher when you're hitting the strays all the time like this. So we remove all those loose cut hairs. Now I apply a leave-in conditioner spray, and then I have a wave gel cream. Some people use a foam. I do sometimes too when the hair's not already trained to lay down. You need to use something stronger like a mousse or a foam. But this client did a washing style before he came in, so I didn't need that much control of the hair. And this allows it to not be stiff like can happen sometimes with the foam. Right, so I'm securing the do-rag, folding it above his eyebrows and bringing it over his ear. Doing my best to avoid wrinkles in this do-rag tie-down process. You want as much contact with the hair as possible. And I use the silky do-rags when I'm laying down waves. Tying it not too tight. I tie it in a bow so it's easily untied. And I held the front of that and I pulled down the fabric in the back, and that tightened it up on the crown. I have a diffuser on my blow dryer, and that disperses the heat evenly, and it just dries it faster when you want the hair to stay still. So you can use this on curls or for waves as well. Just be careful, it heats up faster. All right, and that is real time. I am that fast. Sorry, excuse me. All right, I have a neck strip with 91% alcohol on it. 99 is too strong for the human skin, and 70 is not enough to strip the oils and products that we need to be stripped away. It also exfoliates the skin, the rough texture of that neck strip. So now after I've let that alcohol dry out some, followed by a holding spray, and I use the brush to guide the hairs so that they're locked into the position that I want them to be. And while that is drying, just running over the facial hair length before I line it up. You can use a cool setting on your blow dryer as well to speed up that drying process. You don't want to use the hot because then it could cause the client to perspire, which, as you know, makes it harder for the blades to work how they're supposed to work. You want clean, dry skin and hair. It'll make your blades not have to work as hard, and you'll definitely see a difference. So what I did to one side of his facial hair, I'm doing to the other, keeping it symmetrical. And I'm not using my super crispy liners on his face because I'm going to save that sharp line for my razor work. Single blade foil shavers, I think, are one of the coolest inventions recent for barbers. It allows us to get in areas, and what this does is it creates less stubble and drag for our razor when we're doing our razor line. So you could just hit the line. You don't have to try to clean up above it. That's already taken care of safely with the foil shaver. It reduces your chance of nicking someone or irritating their skin. So now I started on the temple line that's the furthest back where I could get a solid line at. And now I have to use the reference point where the angle intersected the eyebrow or the eye and match it up to the other side. Now this is the base for a straight lineup. I see in the middle I'm going to have to go slightly into his front line so that there is a visible line there. It's a balance. You don't want to keep it too natural so that there's no line. You have to be so close to see it. You want to be able to be seen from like 10 feet away. So you have to go into the natural line minimally, not a whole bunch. But all right, so I went first to the side that was the highest, and I matched the other side to that the best that I can. On my lines, I always start with the side or the area that's the furthest back because you already have to match the other side to that to make it symmetrical. So what that does is it gives you something to go off of. Instead of just doing guesswork, it actually is a template for you. Now I'll move on to the C cup that was the highest. Try to keep it as natural as possible and then match the other side to that. I use washcloths with baby powder in them to dust people off. I prefer that over paper towels for a couple different reasons. It definitely removes the hair better. So now I'm taking my soft brush, and you see the waves are laying down very nice already. And we haven't even put pomade on it yet. So evenly, what I did to one side, I'm evenly doing to the other. If you want the sides to look the same, you gotta do the same shit to them. Don't forget the crown. That's slept on a lot of times because they know the client can't see it. Well, when it's viewed as a whole, when the haircut is viewed out in public and they see that it's good from the crown all the way to the lineup, that's what's going to set their haircut apart. That's what's going to get them approached. People are going to tell them how awesome their haircut looks, and you just have a client forever now. So after brushing, I'm just hitting all the strays that are coming off, taking away from the clarity of my waves. Removing these strays is a big part of having these defined waves like this, where you can see them from all the way across the room. Applying the shave solution to the line area. This stuff dries up pretty quick, so I only do one area at a time. Making sure I'm not going into the line any more than I did with the trimmers already. Making sure that corner is nice and sharp. Those angles and corners really set off your haircuts, and that's what makes the lineup pop. It makes everything look how it's supposed to look. And be careful when you're doing the middle of the skull with a razor, because that's where it's got the most curvature and you could potentially irritate the skin or cut the client even. Now I use a steam towel. I'm wiping off all the area that has been lined, and this is not only removing a shave solution, but it's soothing the skin as well as removing any holding spray, overspray that landed on the skin. I also go over any area that I shaved or used the trimmers on to help subside any irritation and remove any type of oil, product, or anything off the skin. Throw that in the sink. Follow it up with a 50-50, 70% isopropyl alcohol and witch hazel mix. Now I comb all the hairs forward over the line after that alcohol dried out. Again, I'm not going further into the line. I'm just hitting the hairs that are coming over my established line. The way that I go over the line this much is going to ensure that when the client goes home or after a day or so, there's not going to be a bunch of hair coming over his line. He can brush it, comb it, do whatever he wants to do. And that's the importance of laying down the hair before you line it. Okay, now I have pomade going with the gray, wiping it all over his hair. I'm going to follow that with a soft bristle brush. And I follow that brush with my hand to help lay the hair down. The right pomade will add very nice shine, and it'll deepen the color of the hair and just make everything pop and look better. Waves will look more defined. So again, same process with the do-rag. Smoothing it out, less wrinkles the better. That means more contact, which means more control. All right, again, pull that slack out to make sure that there is contact with the crown area. One more time with the diffuser. Just enough time to melt that pomade down so it absorbs into the hair, and it'll give you this desired look here. Look how defined those waves are. You're not typically going to get this defined of waves without incorporating a do-rag into your service. So I brush it over with a soft bristle brush and hit any hairs that are coming over my existing line with my sharpest set of liners. I like to use 2 sets of liners. That way I have some for bulk removal in sensitive areas, and then I got my super crispy ones that I can't use everywhere. I don't even make contact with the skin, just barely with these. There's no need to press down. We already have an established line. I'm literally just hitting a couple hairs here and there. that are coming over the line. I'm viewing the client's blend from the front, and I see that there's some flaws in it that I'll attend to after applying my water-resistant enhancement 5-star by OMG the Barber. It's the best enhancement on the market as far as I'm concerned. If they sweat, it doesn't come off. If they get caught in the rain, it doesn't just come right off like the popular brand. And again, we're not making a line with this. We are enhancing an existing crispy line already. We're humans. We have flaws in our front line. Nobody's hair is perfect. And this just allows us to get that maximum contrast, the difference in color between the hair and skin. And filling up some of the light spots without spraying too much. I still want it to look somewhat natural. Checking them from different angles before I come in and adjust as needed. Again, you have these products that are laying down the hair. It will create dark spots in the blend that you may not have seen before applying it. It could throw you off. So I put some hair oil on his hair. You see how much it shined it up. And just using the corner teeth with no guard. Picking at different areas as needed, spot treatment. Making sure that there's no hairs coming over my lineups from the side angle. Now after the oil, I'm combing the hairs over the hairline and making one more pass with my sharpest set of. And it's okay, at times you might need to use two hands. I got my hand on the client's forehead to steady myself. It's very important that we're not pushing the line back every time we go over it, or else defeating the purpose. We're just constantly fine-tuning the same existing line so that there's never any strays coming over it, taking away from our contrast or the sharpness of the haircut. Now with my foil shaver, I'm just hitting the strays coming off all the waves on top. And viewing my blend from the front always points out flaws for me. Hey, so if you found this video helpful at all, or you just like haircut tutorial videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel now. I plan on putting out a lot more videos and really sharing everything I've learned in 16 years as a professional barber. I'm at one of the highest price points in my city, and I'm booked out a month in advance normally. This only comes from quality alone. The personality only gets you so far. The cut's got to be quality. That sky view. Let's check that front line one more time before he gets up out of here. Yes, sir, it can be seen from a distance. I appreciate you watching again. This is a mid-drop fade with a 1.5 guard lever closed on top.